Appreciate it, Rob. Looking forward to the observations between you and Joel throughout the race. Of course, no live pit stops in Indy Lights, but those guys will be down there to talk to whoever they see and supply us with some additional notes. We've got a pair of turn announcers out on the course. I think he told me he's up there eating shrimp. I don't know if he's serious or not, but good afternoon, Dave. First, I should say good morning, sir.
I'm kidding. I'll have the shrimp later. Yeah, beautiful morning. Simply can't imagine a better way to begin this 2019 season. And I'll tell you, I'm a little jealous of the way Jake Query has begun to eat. This is the best-kept secret in St. Petersburg. What a view. I'm on the 12th floor of the Northern Trust building, looking south. Good view as this field goes under the cross bridge there. Right-hander in the turn 3, and then up through the gears as these drivers head north up First Street before making a 90-degree right before a couple of lefts and a couple of rights around Pioneer Park. They're out of my view at that point. It is tree-laden on that side of the road course, the street course, I should say, but that's where they catch Bay Shore Drive. They make their way back down south. You'll see Al Lang Stadium to the right, home of the Tampa Bay MLS Rowdies, and then continue to head south after a kink, and that's where they come into the view of Ryan Marine. Ryan, how about that view you've got?
Man, it's as good as it gets. Thank you so much, Dave. The field just came by me, and speaking of this view, I really wish all the paying customers would have a chance to see what I can see at least one time, because it really is spectacular. Looking up over the bay, this is the part of the track that has people comparing St. Petersburg to Long Beach or even to Monaco, and it's definitely deserved. Palm trees lining the side, but it's also a perilous part of the racetrack. Concrete walls on either side, tire barriers in the runoff, and one of the best passing zones on the track. That means this is where drivers are going to be taking some chances, trying to make the passes, especially late in this race. Comes down to the last lap. This is your last chance, most likely, to make up that final position before the checkered flag. They'll make the left-hand turn onto Dan Weldon Way and race through the final sequence of corners and head to the start-finish line and hopefully see the checkered flag first in about 40 laps time.
Well, David Ryan described the view. Rob Howden, how's the feel down there on pit lane here for Indy Lights?
Well, the interesting thing right now is, of course, we had our IndyCar warm-up earlier before this session here. It was 71 degrees. There's about 89% humidity. We have all of a sudden got a bunch of cloud cover. There's a cool wind coming off the water. The humidity has most definitely fallen, and this drastic change over really about a half an hour could play a factor in terms of what these drivers and teams have done to their cars. They were set up for that humidity, that higher temperature. It has definitely cooled down here trackside.
The 10 drivers of Indy Lights swerving back and forth, trying to get some heat in those Cooper tires as they make their way down Bayshore Drive for the final time, at least we hope, at pace speed. Here is a look one more time at your lineup. On the front row, it is Oliver Askew, the young man from Jupiter, Florida, just 22 years old, a rookie in this series. And to his outside, one of his rivals, Rhiness VK, fellow rookie and defending reigning champion for the Indy Pro 2000 series. Then it's Mcguinness, Clayman, Saury Malukas, Norman, Falchero, Cole, and Kellett, as we are set to go racing. 10 drivers off of the final couple corners, all attention on the flag stand, and we've got one car getting sideways. It's Ryan Norman, and we're going to get the yellow flag immediately. No contact, but the start is going to be waved off here at St. Petersburg. And Parker, we saw the rear of the field a little late to join up there, and then looked like almost all heck broke loose, but race control not liking that start apparently.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the Road to Indy has actually come out with a new system for our start procedures. We've moved our boards down away from IndyCar now. So we start probably 200 feet later than the IndyCars do. Everyone gets pretty antsy coming on that runway, Nick.
And Steve, again, this is, I think, what we didn't see yesterday, where everybody kind of minded those P's and Q's. We're going to try this one again here.
Yeah, it's definitely a different atmosphere in their second race of the weekend. It's you've got through the first one, you've got a clean car, and you've got the race winner and Saury starting a little farther back too. So you've got all the ingredients for an exciting first turn.
And the message from race control was that we're going to start this thing a little bit quicker. So, Parker, they want Oliver Askew maybe to pick up the pace a little bit out of that final corner.
Interesting. It's his first time on pole in Indy Lights. Obviously, there's a lot to that. He hasn't figured out first gear yet by the looks of it, so we'll see how he goes this time around. It'll be interesting. Usually they're pretty strict. We'll see if they reprimand him at all. especially coming out of this second start.
The clock has started. This is, again, it's a 40-lap race. It could end up being 55 minutes if we get cautions, but we'll get to that 40-lap allotment first. Here they come out of the final corner. We're going to try it again as, again, Oliver Askew, Rhiness VK on the front row. They'll wait for the green flag, start to accelerate, and we are racing, and it's a really nice jump for Askew as he takes the top spot. Rhiness VK tucked inside. Now he's going to look back to the outside. Car gets awful sideways. They are wheel-to-wheel battling for the lead. Dave first. It is Rhiness VK on the inside. Oliver Askew, they're still side-by-side, and now VK takes the lead.
Under the cross bridge, Rhiness VK takes the opening.
And Dave, let me jump in because Oliver Askew has pounded the wall, and we're going to get a full course yellow. I think this was just out of your view. They kind of snaked their way through turns 2 and 3. They tried to go side by side, and Oliver Askew, Parker Thompson, has heavy, heavy damage to the right front of that Andretti Autosport Mazda.
Oh, I feel for him so bad. You know what? Coming into turn 1, it's so tough to judge where you brake into turn 1. He broke a little early. Rhiness threw it in on the outside, got loose, and then drove it around the outside. You come into turn 2. We've seen this time and time again. You touch the curb because you pinch a guy down. He gets into you. You get front right onto left rear. The guy hops up and hits the wall. It's a sad thing to see. Happens a lot, but I hope Oliver's okay.
Steve, obviously that airport runway, you can get 4, 5, 6 abreast if you absolutely have to. Boy, it gets tight once you clear that first corner.
Yeah, it really narrows down there, Nick, and that's a lot like what happened in the second race last year, where Victor Franzoni and Aaron Tielitz got together, and Tielitz ended up in that exact same spot, and it's a hard hit. You've got carrying quite a bit of speed there, believe it or not, and it was definitely a hard hit for Oliver. It's good to see him climbing out of the car, though, but we'll have to see what race control thinks about VK's move.
Yeah, his car came to a rest right up against the outside wall, and we just saw a shot of Oliver Askew climbing out of that race car. And I mean, Rob Howden, you have watched Oliver Askew and Rhiness VK fight tooth and nail over the last couple of years. We kind of teased it throughout the course of this weekend. This could be a budding rivalry. Well, here we go in race number 2.
Yeah, I think we threw a big old can of fuel on it for sure there. These guys have been battling it out through USF 2000, last year in Indy Pro 2000 as well. That's a tough one. We saw it as Steve said yesterday, as they came through turn number 1 and 2, rather Steve said earlier, that was that contact between Aaron Tielitz and Victor Franzoni last year. I didn't see the car of VK making that jink over to the right, though. You know, if he got into the curbing, that obviously would have been an issue. But as I stand here right now at the Andretti Autosport area, they definitely have a couple of guys talking to race control. Rob Edwards has walked out to talk to one of the Road to Indy officials as well. I think they're going to try to plead the case as well here that VK potentially got into Askew coming through turn number 2.
Parker, you had a chance to kind of see that onboard shot of Rhiness VK. I mean, they were wheel to wheel. Both certainly had their own right to the racetrack. Do you see any fault for either, or is that just guys fighting way too hard, maybe into too tight of a corner of a section?
Oh man, it's so tough. But honestly, if I had to call this one, not saying I have to call it, but if I did, I don't think there was much choice there for Rhiness. He had the room. He was up alongside Oliver. He got alongside him along the outside. Oliver squeezed him down to the wall. I mean, when we're battling for a championship and it's the first race of the season, you know guys aren't going to let up. And I know Rhiness. I've raced against him for 3 years now. Oliver's raced against him for that same amount of time. I know how aggressive he is. And trust me, you squeeze Rhiness VK down in turn 2 on the race start, he's probably not going to give you a lot of room. And that's exactly what happened there. So, again, I feel for Oliver, but I'd have to call that one a racing incident, Nick.
And historically, Steve, I mean, that's been the part of the racetrack. We saw Aaron Tielitz have a miserable year last year in that part of the racetrack. He starts. It's just awful tough to get through there.
Yeah, it's really tricky. It really tightens down there. Parker can probably talk to that a little bit more, but being on the outside there, you know, it looks tempting because there's, you know, the braking's a little better over there. You get a better exit of the corner, but man, it tightens down awfully quick.
So here's how they run with Oliver Askew now out of the race, our pole sitter. His day ends in corner number 3, I should say. It is now Rhiness VK who has moved into the top spot. Robert Mcguinness got a good start as he moved from 3rd to 2nd. Yesterday's winner, Zachary Clayman, runs in 3rd. David Malukas is in the 4th spot. He was a big winner. He started in the 6th spot, so not only does he clear Oliver Askew, but he got around, it looked like Toby Sowery at the start of the race. So it's VK, Mcguinness, Clayman, Malukas, Sowery, your top 5. Then Julian Falchero runs in 6th. Ryan Norman is 7th. Lucas Cole is 8th. Dalton Kell at 9th. Oliver Askew out of the race in 10th. And Parker, we just saw on a replay, these were the guys getting ready to go racing, warming up those tires, and I don't know if that's much to do with nothing. Rhiness kind of throwing it in there at first corner, but it ultimately gave us a preview of what we saw at the beginning of the race.
Yes, sir. Rhiness was testing out those brakes. And if you were Oliver, I think you knew that Rhiness was going to try the outside. He does like to, he loves the brakes. He loves to go outside. He loves to brake deep. What's going to be really interesting, Nick, you watch that replay there, that right front Cooper tire on Rhiness's car, it took a lot of hit there on the diffuser and on the floor of Oliver's car. It'll be interesting to see if that holds up for the entire race.
Yeah, no noticeable damage to the car itself because, as Parker mentioned, it was just wheel-to-wheel contact, but boy, you always worry about that. Steve, race control, took a look at the incident. They said no action taken for Rhiness VK. Ultimately, I think we're all in agreement that just kind of one of those chalk it up to a racing deal.
Yeah, it's street course racing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's what it is. I was just kind of looking back at some notes, and that's this is the fourth year in a row the second race has started with a first lap caution. So not a real surprise that happened, but unfortunate for Askew. I know he was really looking forward to starting on the pole and having a chance to get his first Indy Lights win.
And the bigger concern here, now that we know that Oliver Askew is okay after a pretty solid hit, is not nearly to the race car, but to the wall itself, as we just got word that they're going to take a forklift out on the racetrack to readjust the wall. So we're going to be under caution for a little bit longer. And Steve, it gives us a chance to talk about the NTT IndyCar Series race later today. We got 10 cars that had a hard time getting through turns 1 and 2. We're going to have 24 try to do it a little bit later today. Team Penske on the front row, Will Power and Joseph Newgarden. A lot of heavy hitters. Who you like when we drop the green flag a little bit later this afternoon?
It's going to be an interesting race. Penske struggled on the street courses last year. They, I know, worked really hard on that damper program in the offseason. They obviously found something, and it's going to be, Power's had some bad luck here. He's probably due, but there's going to be a lot of guys behind him coming. There's a lot of good drivers stacked up right behind him, including the Andretti guys who seem to be really good in race pace, didn't quite have the qualifying pace they probably wanted. Then you've got Rosenquist, who won a lights race here. It's going to be a very, very interesting first few laps.
Rob Howden, you're with a certainly dejected driver from Jupiter, Florida on pit lane.
Oliver, you've had a chance to see the video, the contact coming through turn number 2. Can you walk us through what you saw from the cockpit?
I knew that he was on my left corner. I thought I gave him enough room there. I just saw the replay. It looked like he clipped the curb and then clipped my left rear tire. So that's really unfortunate. I feel bad for everyone here at Andretti, Stelrect, Index Invest, and everyone on the number 28 crew. Looking forward to putting this behind us, and looking forward to Coda.
A really strong run, of course, yesterday to get that P3. The DNF here, it's going to hurt, of course. Are you happy with the way the team has come together? I watching you guys when you got out of the car here. They were here for you. Are you happy with the team? Are you looking forward to Coda? Tell me what you're thinking moving forward.
I have the best team behind me. There's no doubt about that. I'm really happy to be in the position we're in now. Just super unfortunate today.
Good luck then.
Thank you.
Guys, dejected for sure. He had a chance to look at the video when TV came over and said straight up, you know what, I gave him a lot of room. He just got into the side of me.
Yeah, and what I hate for most, Parker, is that that young man is just from 3 hours away, Jupiter, Florida. I know he told us yesterday he had about 20 or 30 friends and family members making their way to the racetrack, and to have this day end so early is, as you know, that's just a heartbreaking situation. The good news, though, this is a long championship. It's a full season deal for him, and as he talked about, that's a great team. Andretti Autosport knows how to get it done at every level. Oliver Askew is going to be back, but boy, it's a big hit to take early in the championship.
It is, and Oliver's he's pretty notorious for starting championships out really good. So this is definitely going to be interesting to see how he handles the season now that he's in a deficit, to see if he can claw back. But if I had to put money on anyone, Oliver's definitely a great guy, great driver, and I think he'll be coming back very strong in that number 28 Andretti Autosport car.
So we are still under caution here on the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida, as we were really only able to get a couple corners clean and green, really only one corner clean and green to start Indy Lights race number 2. It is Rhiness VK your race leader. Robert Mcguinness is second. Zachary Clayman DeMello is third. Malukas fourth. Sowery fifth. Vouch sixth. Norman 7th, Cole 8th, Kellett 9th, Askew out of the race in 10th, and Steve Wittich in 11th place is the forklift driver who is now making his way through turn number 2 to kind of save the day here, my friend.
Yeah, he hit the apex pretty well in turn 1 there. I'm very impressed with that. Now he's getting hooked up to the wall here and should get it back in place, and we should be getting back to green flag racing here really soon.
Didn't realize you signed up for forklift play-by-play.
No,
in here,
I know it's a lot of fun. I remember a few years ago when we were racing down in New Orleans, and it was raining, and they had the snowplows out on the track.
It never stopped raining.
No,
if you remember that weekend.
I think I'm still wet from that weekend. But yeah, they had snowplows out on the track. But this time we've got the forklift out on the track, and it looks like they've got that wall back in place, and it's part of the dangers of street course racing, right? You've got these temporary walls. They'll get them taken down and out of here in a couple weeks, and it'll be back to normal streets.
It's incredible, the amount of effort, whether it be here or Toronto or Long Beach in a couple weeks for the IndyCar Series, the effort that goes into setting up these street circuits in Detroit as well on Belle Isle. It's just awesome. So the wall set in place, the AMR IndyCar safety team off the racetrack as we are set to go racing once again here on the streets of St. Petersburg. The field of 9 now, only missing Oliver Askew, who is out of the race on lap number 1, starting to cycle their way around Pioneer Park. And Ryan Marine, we'll let you read them off as they head down Bayshore Drive and make that drive through the kink of turn number 9 as we are set to go racing once again, working lap number 7 here on the streets of St. Petersburg.
The pace car has picked up the pace as it makes its way just in front of me through turn number 10. The field has backed off considerably. Rhiness VK out in front, leading the field at a conservative pace. It's Robert Mcguinness behind him. Yesterday's winner, Zachary Clayman. Then the number 79, David Malukas, Toby Sowery, the 4 of Julian Falchero, Ryan Norman, Lucas Cole, and Dalton Kellett, bringing up the rear of the field as they make their way onto Dan Weldon Way.
We see that slow pace. You know, Rhiness VK Parker wants to get a really good jump out of turns 13 and 14.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Extremely slow pace. We'll see what the race directors have to say about that. But here we go. You see the qualifying timeline is where you can punch off. Rhiness is getting a great start, goes out wide, and looks like he's going to have a pretty nice jump.
Yeah, back of that car stepped out just a bit, though, but the advantage was gained through the corner as the green flag is back out as Rhiness VK is your leader here in Indy Lights. Robert Mcguinness runs in second. Looks like everybody through the top 5 going to play pretty nice. Ryan Norman takes a look to the inside of Julian Falchero. Falchero slams the door shut, but it is Rhiness VK, your leader, over Robert Mcguinness through turn number 3.
Yeah, everyone tiptoeing through turns 2 and 3. Toby Sowery to the inside of his teammate, David Belugas. He'll make up a spot there. Meanwhile, it is Rhiness VK. Let's call it 4, maybe 5 car lengths back. Or at least the advantage as they make their way around Pioneer Park through turns 5, 6, 7. Now that right-hander, 90-degree to turn 8. It is Rhiness VK leading here at St. Pete.
Rhiness VK has stretched out that lead. It's 7, maybe 8 car lengths now. Jumbo supermarkets on the side of that Soul Red machine. The rest of the field, though, still very close together as they make their way through turn 10.
Parker, that was a really nice move by Toby Sowery, and he looks like to have a really good race car. He's now moved into that 4th position.
Yeah, he does. He has impressed me a lot to come in on a similar deal like myself, a one-race deal to come in and do what he has to do. Obviously, he hasn't had much testing in an Indy Lights car, let alone an open-wheel car in the last kind of year. He went and did the Indy Pro 2000 race last year at Road America, had some great finishes, and now look at him go.
VK, Mcguinness, Clayman, and Sowery, the top 4. And tell you what, Dave, first, I don't think that rookie Toby Sowery, the Englishman, is done quite yet as he stalks Zachary Clayman.
He is all over that rear wing of Zachary Clayman, who follows Robert Mcguinness. Meanwhile, VK's lead continues to increase. Let's call it 7, 8 car lengths. Single file now through turns 4, 5, and 6. This is the technical portion of this race course. Very difficult to make any movement there. And now as they head back on Bayshore Drive, head your way, Ryan Marine.
Rhiness VK has just stretched out that lead. He's in a zip code all by himself, but the battle for 3rd rages on. Toby Sowery stays in line, single file. The rest of the field following suit through turn number 10, but Sowery trying to put some pressure on yesterday's winner, Zachary Clayman.
Steve Wittick, 2 laps, and Rhiness VK has put 2 seconds on Robert Mcguinness. That's incredible.
That really is incredible. I know they'd been fighting a few mechanical gremlins earlier in the weekend, and they thought they might have a little more pace than they'd shown, and it definitely looks like that's the case. Rhiness has really stretched this out, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they've got that car set up. If it's good for the long run, if Mcguinness can just sort of hold on to his tires and come back at him later. It's going to be really interesting, but we've got definitely some action behind that.
Boy, Dave, Zachary Clayman has turned into the hunter, not the hunted.
Yep, he's taking a peek under the turn 4 area, took a look to the inside of Robert Mcguinness, but then snapped back into line. He's not so concerned about Toby Sowery behind him as he is about Mcguinness in front of him. But single file now, VK, Mcguinness, Clayman, Sowery, Malukas.
When Clayman's move didn't work, that let Sowery get back within striking distance, but Clayman's very strong off of turn number 9. He arrives in turn 10 each and every lap with just enough cushion where he doesn't have to be too concerned about Toby Sowery, who continues to stalk him from the 4th position, but now he's got a car in his rearview mirrors.
Parker, that move by Clayman trying to grab 2nd position. I saw got a reaction out of you. That's a tight part of the racetrack to try to make a dive bomb move work.
It is, and what's really interesting, Nick, is it's one of those corners where you use a lot of brake pressure, but you get off the brakes very quick, so you can't really throw it around. But look at Zach. He's going to wheel the outside, and I think he gets the job done. Very nice pass.
What a fantastic pass, and now Mcguinness, Dave, first is going to had his hands full with Sowery and Malukas.
Boy, look at this freight train as now Malukas dives down to the inside, 3 wide through turn 4. Something's got to give, and right now it's Malukas. Now Malukas still holding off his teammate and Toby Sowery as they make their way through turn 6, 7, and now that right-hander through 8. Toby Sowery keeping it. I tell you what, veteran move by Sowery just to get back in line.
And Malukas kept it interesting there. He picked up a couple of spots, the big benefactor of that daring move. Somehow they made it through. Malukas has got himself a little bit of breathing room over Sowery. Sowery now has the number 27 car of Mcguinness breathing down his neck. The battle with the mid-pack guys, it's fierce.
Yeah, Mcguinness isn't done as he is right up underneath the rear wing of Toby Sowery's car, and one of the other Velarde auto racing cars of Julian Falchero has crept into the mix. Boy, Parker Thompson, yesterday's race, a little calm as we predicted. This one, not so much. How about that 3-wide battle into Pioneer Park?
Unbelievable. Well, first off, well done to Malukas to throw it down on the inside in that corner. I was just talking about how hard it is to pass there because of how quick you have to get off the brakes, and he goes out and gets the job done and proves me wrong. So awesome job there. It looked like Robert got pretty loose coming over turn 3. Car had a big tank slapper, and that's kind of what checked everyone up, and that's why we saw that 3-wide pass.
Steve, 3 wide in Indy Lights on a street course. You're not supposed to be able to do that, my friend.
No, that was a very impressive move. It's interesting. David Malukas, Toby Sowery's here to, he's here to help that team out, to get David sorted and more comfortable with that car as a one-car team. But I talked to him, and he's definitely also here for himself. But Malukas is known for being aggressive and being able to get some passes done, and I'm impressed with that one. That was a really good pass.
Well, that was incredible because once Clayman got around Mcguinness, they went side by side, and Mcguinness had to check up, and it just stacked things up, and he had a hornet's nest all over him. So as we work into lap number 12 here in St. Petersburg, it is VK, Clayman, Malukas, the top 3. That battle for third, though, still pretty good, though, Dave, first, as David Malukas has it, but Toby Sowery continues to close in fourth.
That gap now about 5 car lengths or so as things have evened out, or at least become a little bit more calm here on the streets of St. Petersburg. Single file now through turn 6, 7, around Pioneer Park, taking a good look at Al Lang Stadium. VK, Clayman, Malukas, Sowery, Mcguinness, the top 5.
Waiting to see if Zachary Clayman can reel in Rhiness VK. The early returns are no. Toby Sowery trying to track down his teammates, still fighting for that final podium position. Remember how that yellow number 2 really seemed to come to life late in the race. It's a couple of teammates there, so we'll see if they might be on the same strategy that we heard Parker allude to earlier, but whether or not these 2 cars might be able to bring the challenge to the front, too, that remains to be seen.
Ryan mentioned the gap up front. VK's lead was 2.9 seconds. This time across the line at 2.8 seconds. So stabilizing for the most part for the rookie Rhiness VK as Zachary Clayman DeMello comfortably now has that second position. He may not be running down our leader, but certainly he is pulling away from David Malukas. Did just get a note that there is a turn 3 surface flag for a long piece of debris out on the racetrack, so the drivers have been warned about that. Again, though, Dave, first, we watched those drivers snake around Pioneer Park. Malukas appears to have his hands full a bit with Toby Sowery as they run single file, got a couple 90-degree right-hand turns. Ryan Marine, actually, it looks like this battle for third may be heading to you as Malukas is just clear of Sowery by a couple car lengths.
Coming around that left-hand kink into the heavy braking zone of turn number 10. It's a 1 car length gap between the 79 and the 2. Sowery can't get it done this time. Just doesn't seem to have the punch out of turn number 9, guys. That was true when he was chasing Clayman earlier. It's true here as he's chasing his teammate Malukas.
Well, it is a 2-car effort this year in Indy Lights for Ricardo Juncos. He's got the veteran Dalton Kellett, who is now in his 4th year in Indy Lights. And perhaps most importantly right now, Rob Howden, he has our race leader, Rhiness VK, piloting one of his machines.
Ricardo, you've won championships in Indy Lights with Spencer Piggott and Kyle Kaiser. You win Indy Pro 2000 last year with this young Dutch driver, Rhiness VK. What are your thoughts right now? He's leading here in Indy Lights. What a great jump up to the premier class already.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, you know. Very young driver, very talented, so we get lucky to have him back again in the team. Yeah, we're looking forward for a long championship, very difficult. You can see Indy Lights never is easy, right? So far it's good, and this is just the beginning.
Again, you've worked with some great drivers. Of course, you had Rhiness all last year. What are the attributes about Rhiness you think suits him up to potentially go for a championship here as a rookie in Indy Lights?
I think he lives racing. I mean, he's fully focused on racing. All his life is about racing, and it's great to work with someone like that because he pushes the whole team to the limits, right? So that's what I say about him. He's super talented, very young, very smart, and that's good because push everybody up, right?
18 years of age. What about his feedback? Has he worked well with Ernie?
He's very good. He's getting better. You know, obviously these cars are very technological, so we're working a lot on that area for him to understand how this works, why it needs to be driven sometimes a different way, and how you express that yourself to the engineer, which is very important key, right? So we're working on it. He's doing a great job so far.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Thank you.
Nick Yeoman, it's all about the language, right? Being able to talk to your race engineer. We talk about how these drivers work their way up. You know, they're getting their speed in USF 2000, working on the racecraft, their skill set in the Indy Pro. It's more than that. And Parker Thompson can speak to this as well. You have to learn the language. You have to start learning the technology behind these race cars so you're able to speak to your engineer to know exactly what's happening.
I couldn't have said that better myself, Rob. It's so tough. And we look at the field, a lot of these guys are rookies in Indy Lights. This is their first race working with an engineer on a race level. They've done a lot of testing, but racing's a lot different, especially when we get that Firestone rubber put down by the Indy cars. It doesn't always interact with the Cooper tire rubber in these Indy Lights cars. So it's very interesting how you're going to set up a car over the weekend, and it looks like Juncos and Rhiness VK have got it nailed down pretty good at this point.
I want to talk a little bit more about the situation there at Juncos momentarily, but we're keeping an eye on a really good battle for the 3rd position as Rhiness VK's lead over Zachary Clayman still sits at around 3 seconds. Clayman is comfortably in 2nd, but David Malukas is, I think, probably tired of seeing that bright yellow car of Toby Sowery hound him for that 3rd position as they've been like magnets. Couple car lengths have separated in the last 5 or 6 laps.
Can I vote that we have a Team Pelfrey car at every race this season? That yellow really pops amongst the field of 10. But still, it is Malukas with a car, let's call it a car and a half separation between those two. That battle for 3rd settling down just a bit, but just in case if Malukas makes a mistake, Toby Sowery's right there.
I'll second that request, Dave. I absolutely agree. The yellow number 2 stalking the silver and red number 79. Malukas in 3rd, Sowery in 4th. Coming up into the picture is the number 27 of Robert Mcguinness. Sounds like we got a problem out on the race course, guys.
Yeah, that appears it was Dalton Kellett. Dave, first, you saw that 2nd Juncos car might have tested the runoff area.
Yeah, he just went into the runoff area, did a very nice job, quickly turned it back around and got back out on the race course. So just a momentary incident there for Dalton Kellett.
Oh, and Parker, I'm watching timing and scoring. Previous lap, Rhiness VK. This is the 17th lap of the race. Obviously, not all of them have been run under green. Rhiness VK set the fastest lap of the race, and then right behind him, 2.9 seconds, Zachary Clayman DeMello retook the fastest lap. So these guys are trying to lay down qualifying pace right now.
Yes, and it's really interesting, Nick. I experienced it yesterday. A lot of this race is just waiting for a caution to come out. We know it's the streets of St. Pete. It's daunting for a lot of drivers, and people make mistakes, and mistakes here bring out cautions. So we look at all these drivers getting squirrely. If I was Rhiness, which I was yesterday leading the Indy Pro 2000 race, you're just waiting for that caution. You're making sure the car's staying balanced. You want to make sure you're not wearing off one side of the car, which means you don't want to make the car push too much to wear the front out. You don't want to get the car too loose, wear the rear out. You're just worried about balance. You're waiting for that caution, and if you extend your gap, you extend your gap.
Rhiness VK laid down a minute 6.501 lap on the previous circuit around St. Petersburg. This time across the start-finish line. Once again, it's a minute 6.5 as Zachary Clayman matches that minute 6.5 as those two continue to lay down some good laps. Robert Mcguinness puts down a minute 6.1. So these drivers really pushing hard as they try to claw their way back to the front. Steve, we're closing in on the halfway point of this race. It's Rhiness VK, Zachary Clayman, David Malukas, the top three. Toby Sowery runs fourth. Robert Mcguinness is fifth. Back to the story about Juncos Racing, and I think the neat thing about Ricardo's relationship with Rhiness VK, and we kind of saw it with his relationship with Kyle Kaiser and Spencer Pigot, which ultimately led to championships, that familiarity, the comfortable nature of driving for Ricardo Juncos, that organization appears to have kind of a family atmosphere.
Yeah, they really do have family atmosphere, and Ricardo takes driver development very, very seriously. He's an interesting program where, you know, the drivers actually have to take classes with the engineers. You know, they do it two or three times a season where the drivers will sit down for a day with the engineers and go over and learn how to communicate and the different changes to the car. And it's a very unique thing they do, but it works. And it's, you know, I was talking to Stingray Robb, who's one of their new Indy Pro 2000 drivers, and he said that was one of the things he really liked about going there is that he knew that driver development for Ricardo Juncos is huge. And you've seen that with his drivers like Spencer Pigot and Kyle Kaiser come from Indy Pro 2000 to Indy Lights and now IndyCar. And it obviously works, and Rhiness VK is just the latest that it looks like he's on that path.
Yeah, it's paid off big time, obviously, for Pigot, who's going to compete later today. We're expecting, I think, some good news for Kyle Kaiser. We hope to see him back behind the wheel of one of Juncos' Indy cars later this season. So certainly it has paid off for those drivers driving for Ricardo Juncos, and Rhiness VK appears to be the next in line there. Steve talked about the driver engineer relationship, Parker. How tough was that for you this weekend, knowing that you're jumping behind the wheel of with a new team? And certainly you probably, I imagine by the end of the weekend, you didn't know all those guys' names at the end.
I tell you what, I did. I made
you
sure of it, 100%. I could honestly rattle them all off right now if you wanted me to. But I don't want to bore everyone at home. But I think coming in on a one-race deal like I was, you've got to make sure that you mesh with the team, especially your engineer, but the rest of the team is just as important. So to have these Able Motorsports guys come in, their very first race in Indy Pro 2000, they go out, they get a track record, we get 2 poles, and we get 2 wins is just unbelievable. And it takes a team effort. It's not just a driver. As Rob and many people have said on this broadcast, it is a whole team effort, and it goes all the way from the top to the bottom. You look at the driver and the engineer relationship, and it goes all the way down to the crew. You've got to mesh. I mean, these guys put in late nights. If they don't like you, they don't want to put in those extra little tidbits to make sure that car's fast.
Let's go back to pit lane and check in once again with Joel Sebastianelli.
Yeah, and with Brian Velarde, the Velarde in Velarde Auto Racing. From what you've seen so far this weekend, is the team where you'd like it to be?
Yeah, we're one of our cars is definitely where I think he should be. The other two were, you know, we knew it was going to be a little bit of a development process at this track. So yeah, overall in general, we're happy.
Sort of an unusual set of circumstances for Zachary Clayman, coming from IndyCar to Indy Lights. Are there any challenges you think come with that transition? Normally we talk about the transition lights to IndyCar, not the other way around.
Well, I think it was getting reacclimated to the new different tire, braking and not as much downforce, really.
For the 2 new guys on the team, what is it that they have to acclimate to, making the jump to the IL-15?
Well, Lucas just needs to, he made a big jump from USF 2000 to Indy Lights, so that's going to be a process continuing throughout the season. For Julian, I think this is his first street course, so he can show quickness, and we know he's quick at other tracks. So once we get through this weekend, I'm really looking forward to COTA.
Okay, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, Joel. Obviously, Steve Wittick from Trackside Online covering the road to Indy. We're going to be talking a lot about Zachary Clayman all season long, but certainly Brian Velarde, I think, has a couple drivers in Lucas Cole and Julian Falchero. I think you can say they're projects. Certainly Cole is with the step up here this season, but a lot of talent in this field, and we're going to see how those guys mature and get better throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how Falchero does in 2 weeks at Circuit of the Americas. He tested really well there. Had a couple good chats with him. He's a very passionate race car driver. been in Europe for a number of years now. He wasn't sure whether he wanted to make the move over here, but when he did that test at COTA with the Indy cars, he just loved it. And he loves driving the car, and he loves the atmosphere. He loves the cordiality in the paddock. It's very, very different than it is racing in Europe. And there's times over in Europe where a driver, you know, I'm not going to say the teams don't treat everybody the same, but they don't. There's drivers that within the first driver of the team gets a little better chance than the second driver, and the third guy sometimes is even farther down. So it's really hard to determine how to rate someone that's coming over from Europe. Like Volterra has a lot of laps and a lot of miles, and he's been very fast in testing, and he was very fast at the test in COTA and at the one at Homestead, so it'll be really interesting to see how he develops.
And for Lucas Cole, the young 20-year-old from Brazil who's going to turn 21 in May, spent 3 years in USF 2000, never found his way to victory lane, as we see Dalton Kellett went off once again down in turn number 10. But while he never found his way, Lucas Cole, to victory lane, Steve, consistently year after year got a little bit better. 12th in points in 2016, 7th in points in 2017, and then last year had a pretty nice season with 4 podiums and a 3rd in the championship. Again, still a big jump up to go all the way to Indy Lights, but that's a young man that it may take a couple years in this Indy Lights program for it to really pay off.
Yeah, and they definitely understand that it's, you know, the way you look at the road to Indy, you know, it's a 4, 5, 6 year program, and whatever you've decided, how many years you've decided, it doesn't really matter how many years you do in which series. It works out the same. You're going to get the same, you know, basically the same training. You know, you're going to want to be in lights, you know, as long as you want, or as long as you can. But it definitely doesn't hurt to move up, skip a level. And it's interesting. And here we go with the pass.
Yeah, it looks like finally Toby Sowery is going to take a look to the inside of David Malukas. Malukas gave him some room. That's going to allow him to take the spot. And now Dave First, that battle for third is going to become a 3-car battle. Here comes Robert Mcguinness.
It's been that way for the last couple of circuits or so, as Robert Mcguinness is now all over the back of that 79 machine of David Lucas. And now through tiptoeing through that left-hander in turn 5, and now another left-hander in 6, and a couple of 90-degree rights in turn 6 and 7 and 8. Around Pioneer Park, it is Toby Sowery, third, heading your way.
Sowery has checked out in that third position. The fight is for fourth. Malukas, Hurried, and Harried coming into turn number 10. He's got the 27 of Mcguinness right on the gearbox. Can't make the move this time, but he's setting him up, that's for sure.
Yep, they're separated by just a couple car lengths. Sowery's got about 3 or 4 over Malukas as they make their way through that hairpinned right-hander of turns 13 and 14. Back out on the front stretch on this airport run race. Sowery has that third spot, but all attention is on the battle for fourth as David Malukas has kind of slipped into the grass of Robert Mcguinness. Mcguinness didn't quite get a good enough run out of turn 14 to make a look, but Dave First, he is still right there. A couple car lengths separating Malukas and Mcguinness.
Call it 4 car lengths, but that's really going to narrow up as they make that right-hander in turn 4. Now it's down to a car length and a half. Malukas has fourth. Robert Mcguinness wants it. Now, again, through Pioneer Park, single file, tiptoeing their way through this technical portion of the racetrack. It's VK, Clayman, Sowery, Malukas, Mcguinness, the top 5.
VK all by himself out in front. He went by. Here comes Zachary, Clayman. Now it's Sowery with about a car length and a half gap back into Malukas, his teammate Mcguinness, an equal distance back behind him. Volterra has dropped off the pace a little bit. He was kind of close to those 3 earlier, but right now it seems to be those 3 cars battling for third, fourth, and fifth.
I think David Malukas, the 17-year-old from Chicago, might have got right back on his horse after he got passed, because he's done a nice job of reestablishing the pace to kind of get away from Robert Mcguinness by about 6 car lengths into turn number 1. Parker Thompson, you had a chance to see that nice pass, a couple replays of it from Toby Sowery. That's exactly how you draw it up into turn number 1, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And you know what? David gave him room. Obviously, they're teammates. That would be a absolutely tragic if they took each other out. So they did give each other good racing room. But what I found interesting is it almost opened up the door for Robert Mcguinness there in turn 4. I think if he timed that turn 1 a little bit better, maybe gave himself some gap to get the run, he might have had a shot at getting both of them.
It's pretty amazing, Steve, because as we saw in the opening lap with the incident involving Oliver Askew, once you clear turn 1, you've got to do a great job of getting back single file. And when you have a pass take place in that right-hander of turn 1, if anyone's, 6 to 10 car lengths back, they're going to be right on you by the time you get through turns 2 and 3, and ultimately almost resulted in Mcguinness moving into the top 5 on that straightaway down to turn 4.
Yeah, when you go to pass or go to defend into turn 1, you're obviously not having the ultimate, the perfect line coming in or out. And it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I want to ask Parker something here. Parker, you've got, obviously Toby Sauer here is here to help the team advance or get better, help David. How hard is that for him to go by the person he's here to help?
Well, it is and it isn't. Obviously, you definitely don't want to bite the hand that feeds you, for lack of a better term. But at the same time, I think Toby's really got to prove his worth right now. It's a combined entry of Team Pelfrey along with BN. He's got to make sure that he's performing, and the only way to do that, is to go get podiums.
And for more on that team dynamic, let's hear from the car owner himself, standing by with Rob Howden.
Yeah, I've got Bryn Nuttall here right now. Obviously, no team orders. We're talking about this right now. You've brought Toby Sauer over to run in this collaboration with Team Pelfrey. Kind of a one-off weekend, but he's going after your number 1 driver in David Malukas. Talk about the structure that you have right now within the team.
They're both very good, both very competitive. It'd be wrong first race of the season to sort of install team orders. They're free to race. Why would we install team orders? They're both racing just like everybody else.
Let's talk about this first weekend. You guys come in as a brand new team, solid in testing. Have you overrun your expectations so far?
Well, yeah, I did a lot of interviews in the winter season, and, my aim for the year was a podium. We did that already in our very first race, so, I'm not going to get too ahead of myself. This is a street circuit. It was probably going to suit us a little bit more considered some of the other tracks, but, obviously I'm over the moon.
You guys are trying to put together the full ladder system, USF 2000 and the Indy Pro 2000 and Indy Lights. You don't have anybody in Indy Pro, but you're the only Indy Lights team that put a driver on a podium as well in USF 2000 for Zach Holden. Overall, how happy are you with the way the whole program's coming together?
Yeah, unbelievable. It's been a very tough winter, very busy learning a new car, preparing everything, and to do podium in USF and a podium in Indy Lights yesterday, just, all the hard work's paid off for me and all my guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bryn Nuttall, guys, BN Racing becoming a force here in the road to Indy.
Yeah, and they're poised for another podium finish here on the streets of St. Petersburg, as we saw Malukas and Sauer, those two BN Racing cars, one of them in a partnership with Team Pelfrey, battling for that final step on the podium. Right now it is Sauer who has that third spot locked down. And Steve, it's an interesting interview that Rob just did. Bryn very honest about his expectations coming into this season about, hey, we just wanted to maybe find a podium at some point this year. To do it in race 1, they must be over the moon, because I can't speak enough to how big of a challenge that has to be to compete with the Juncos, Velarde, and Andretti teams of the world who have been doing at this Indy Lights thing for many, many years. For that BN Racing team to come out of the gates here in St. Petersburg, super impressed with all those guys.
Yeah, it is. It's very impressive, and it's interesting. They've got a few guys that come from the road to Indy background, but there's a lot of guys there that were on Bryn's karting team with them, and Bryn owned a fantastic karting team, and he's engineering Indy Lights now, which is it's amazing to me how smart he must be to be able to. He must have a feel for what the driver wants and be able to translate that to the car, because he's now engineered David to races in USF 2000 and Indy Pro 2000 and Indy Lights in 3 years in a row. That's got to be pretty tough.
We've hit the three-quarter mark here in Indy Lights in race number 2. Just saw Robert Mcguinness overcook that right front. I'll tell you what, though, Dave, first, while Zachary Clayman has not been able to reel in Rhiness VK, that lead is up to 6.3 seconds. Toby Sauer continues to show some muscle as he is reeling in that second-place running car.
As Zachary Clayman looks ahead and tries to find VK, his mirrors are becoming full of that bright yellow machine for Toby Sauer. The distance about 3 or 4 car lengths as they make their way through turns 5, 6, now the right-handers 7, 8, and 9. But if he takes a good look in that rearview mirror, he might have to start driving defensively here. Ryan Marine, as they head your way in turn 10.
Yeah, this was the battle for the lead yesterday, Clayman and Sauer. And remember, Sauer just got stronger relative to Clayman as the race went along. The gap between these two has closed noticeably over the last 3 or 4 laps. Sauer is coming, and he's coming fast.
Boy, that's what an impressive weekend for Toby Sauer. Tell you what, Parker, I'd like to see that young man back in an Indy Lights car a little bit more this season, because clearly he has got a heavy right foot in that yellow car.
I would love to see it too. I think Toby's done an unreal job coming in here on a one-race deal. I think if anyone can relate to him, it would be me. So fantastic job to him. It's not easy coming in on a one-race deal with no testing, and you're expected to go out and get podiums just like he's doing. So awesome job to Toby. I'm also interested to see with that Rich Energy sponsorship he's got. We see a Haas F1 team now is called Rich Energy Haas F1. So if they've got money, it'd be awesome to get Toby back over here in the U.S. and back in Indy Lights. Yeah,
and to get it into the Indy car and Road to Indy paddock, that'd be fantastic. Always awesome to see new companies get involved, obviously with NTT stepping up with naming rights for the IndyCar series, and certainly to see some partnerships in Indy Lights. It's fantastic as well. It is Rhiness VK, your leader, by 6.3 seconds. That battle, Rob Howden, for second continues to be a good one. Zachary Clayman's got that second spot, but just 0.8 of a second. That translates to right around 2 or 3 car lengths here on the streets of St. Pete.
I just think it's such an intriguing adventure that Toby Sowery has had here on the road to Indy. You think about 2 years ago, 2017, he I think ran one weekend with Team Bennick in USF 2000 at Barber Motorsports Park, then didn't come back for the rest of the season. He shows up with BN Racing at Road America last June, ends up getting a couple of second-place finishes as he and his teammate David Malukas dominate the weekend, and then he shows up here in Indy Lights. So this is really only his third start on the road to Indy. He hasn't driven a car since October, and it's his first street race as well. Second place yesterday, now running third, looking for another podium here. What just an incredible performance this weekend for Toby Sowery.
And they are all over the back of each other as they make their way onto Bay Shore. Here they come, Ryan Marine. Toby Sowery, a couple car lengths behind.
Sowery, a British Racing Drivers Club Rising Star. That's a pretty prestigious honor. Zachary Clayman in front of him. We thought he was a rising star in the NTT IndyCar Series last year. Makes the move back down to Lights, chasing that championship. But behind him, problems on the racetrack for one of our cars that was contending for a podium earlier. That's Robert Mcguinness.
Yep, Robert Mcguinness missed the exit of turn number 10. He was trying to run down David Malukas for the 4th spot. He caught that right front tire to the outside wall. Sowery takes a look to the outside of Clayman. They're all going to have to check up, though, because we get a full course yellow as Robert Mcguinness is now the second Andretti Autosport car that is going to fail to finish this race. Parker, we were watching 2 little battles there, and now we get to see a replay. And Malukas, or excuse me, not Malukas, but Mcguinness has been pushing really hard the last few laps. We've seen him lighten up those front tires trying to catch David Malukas. Looks like he might have just misjudged turn 10.
I tell you what, Nick, these Cooper tires are awesome, but he continued to lock up that right front all the time. I mean, we saw probably 3 or 4 replays of right front lockup, and these Cooper tires are great, but you can't keep locking them up. And I haven't seen the replay, but I imagine he probably locked the right front up again down into turn 10.
So a full course caution with 7 laps to go, and Steve, this is the last thing Ricardo Juncos and his driver Rhiness VK needed to see.
Oh, yeah. With a 6.8 second lead, Rhiness was, he's not going to coast, but he was probably feeling pretty comfortable. But now he's got Clayman behind him, and I think Sowery's probably going to be the one to watch on this restart. He's got absolutely nothing to lose. He wants to win the race. He came second yesterday. He'd love to get that win. This restart should be really fun to watch.
We just saw Robert Mcguinness hop out of that race car, Parker, really frustrated with himself. You race car drivers, you've all been there. Every one of you have wrecked a car at some point. It's going to happen. That young man got to be awful frustrated because he was pushing awful hard trying to get back into the 4th spot.
And, I thought Nick, he's had a great debut weekend. He's done what he's had to do. He went out there and performed well in qualifying, qualified 3rd for race 2 here. It's unfortunate. It happens, though. St. Pete is daunting, and unfortunately it takes a lot of cars if you're not staying focused and you're making mistakes.
So under the yellow with 6 laps to go as the cleanup starts for Robert Mcguinness. I don't expect this to be too terribly long of a cleanup. He got the wall and really tore up the right front, but there wasn't a ton of debris at the exit of turn 10. It's VK, Clayman, Sowery, Malukas, and now Julian Falchero in the top 5 as we go back to pit lane and check in with Joel Sebastianelli.
Unsurprisingly, 2 very different reactions from the Juncos racing team and the Velarde Auto racing team, with drivers running in 1st and 2nd. The Juncos team had their hands in the air. They thought they had this thing in the bag with Rhiness VK out front. Velarde, much more reserved. They know they needed a caution and get back in it. The first thing that John Bruno went over to the pit stall and asked Brian Velarde is, how are we doing on time? Wondering if we'd have to go to a timed race. But it seems like for right now, they're going to be okay if they can get this thing restarted. It's maybe more a question of how much time is there to clean up and go back to the restart. But I hear there is one to go. Zachary Clayman DeMello faded at the end yesterday, but I think Clayman in a very good spot right here. We'll see if we can get it done.
Yeah, Clayman's going to have a good chance, and certainly Saury, who appears to be one of, if not the fastest car on the racetrack. Joel mentioned the time. We've now got 9 minutes to go, and we're about to cross the line to get 5 to go. Most importantly, though, the lights on the pace car are going to be shut off, and we'll get 1 to go at the line. So we are definitely going to get a nice little shootout to end this race, and Parker Thompson, that's why you do these things. I saw you get excited. We're all excited, man. This is going to be fun to see if Clayman or Saury have anything for VK, and how much did Rhiness, how much has he saved his stuff throughout the last portion of this race to hold off those guys?
Well, Nick, I'm absolutely pumped. I think this is going to be very exciting. So I'm looking at the push-to-passes right now in our booth. Rhiness has saved those up. He's got 20. He has not been push-to-pass happy. He's saved them up. Clayman DeMello's definitely got some. He's got 13. But then we look down the field, and there's a lot of people that don't really have any left. So it's going to be an interesting little shootout between VK and Clayman here.
Rob Howden, that 18-year-old from Holland, Rhiness VK, going to try to hold on for what looks to be a 4-lap shootout on the streets of St. Pete.
Yeah, very interesting for Rhiness VK. He's had a lot of success here at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. USF 2000 2 years ago, Indy Pro 2000 last year, of course, now making his debut in Indy Lights. He finished 2nd and 3rd in USF 2000. He won both races last year in Indy Pro 2000. His 5th yesterday, his worst finish ever. His first finish off the podium here in St. Petersburg. He's never finished outside the top 5. He leads here right now. And if there's one thing we've watched with Rhiness VK, his comfort level, his maturity, his poise has just continued to grow. Steve Whittick, I know you've watched that for sure over the last number of years. He just keeps getting more and more confident in the skills that he has. I think he's going to handle this restart pretty well.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Rob. And, you know, he spent 3 or 4 weekends racing over in Asia, and that was a very tough series with a lot of Europe's best drivers, and he ended up winning that championship. Really kind of probably helped the stature of the Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires. Beat guys like Dan Ticktum and Yifi Yi and Callum Illett, who are very highly ranked drivers over in Europe. So, yeah, I think he should be in good shape here.
Great job by the AMR IndyCar safety team getting that accident cleaned up as quickly as possible. Just got the car off the racetrack in time as we're set to go racing. And what a jump for Rhiness VK back out on the front straightaway as he's going to clear Zachary Clayman by 4 or 5 car lengths. That is going to be good enough to get him into turn number 1. Battle now is, though, for 3rd as Toby Saury goes to the inside to defend. David Malukas got side-by-side momentarily. Had to fall in line, Dave, first as they streak out of turn number 3.
How about a St. Pete shootout to wrap up this Sunday morning here in beautiful Florida, and they go single file, not much movement at all, and no one takes a peek in any direction through turn 4 cleanly. Now turn 5, a couple left-handers, now those 90-degree right-handers. Not much movement there. It's VK, Clayman, Saury, Malukas, Volterra, the top 5 heading your way, Ryan Marine.
Saury held off Malukas there into turn 1, and that gave the front 2 some breathing room. Rhiness VK all by himself. Zachary Clayman about 6 or 7 car lengths behind already. Saury keeping his teammate Malukas behind him. Then it's the Velarde car of Volterra.
I'll tell you what, Parker, Saury and Malukas battling, though, for 3rd could be really good news for Zachary Clayman because now he can laser lock on focus on Rhiness VK and not have to worry about Saury behind him, who's been really strong over the last 10 laps or so.
For sure. It's definitely going to be a blessing in disguise for Zachary. But you know what? I have to comment. I know it was kind of a boring restart, but boring is good when you're driving that good. Rhiness was fantastic on the restart. I mean, what a jump. He dimed in the corner, and he was gone. He was 2 postal codes ahead of everybody else coming to the start-finish line, so that was awesome. He did what he needed to do, and a great restart. I think he saved up his tires, and to be honest, he's looking pretty to finish off this race on the top of the box.
Yep, for those Americans listening, postal codes are the same as zip codes.
I didn't know, but our Canadian in the booth, Steve Wittich, points it out, and our Canadian down on pit lane, Rob Howden, was going to jump on it as well. So I did need help with that, guys. Thank you. But it is Rhiness VK, your leader here, with just about 2.5 laps to go. Some good battling further back. Ryan Marine, looks like Julian Falchero starting to get pressured by Ryan Norman a bit here in the final laps.
Yeah, Norman started this weekend strong. He topped the only practice session this weekend, but it's been downhill from there. He is on the back wing of Falchero coming through turn 10 and now onto the front straightaway. That's probably the best battle in the field with 3 laps to go.
Well, we say that, but here comes Zachary Clayman as he has chopped that lead in half. It was 1.2 seconds, and now with 2 laps to go, it's down to a half a second. Clayman about 3 car lengths behind the race leader, Rhiness VK, out of 3.
Let's call it 5 car lengths, but that's really going to shrink up as they make that right-hander into turn 4. Call it 3.5 now, as it is Clayman closing in on Rhiness VK in these final stages, tiptoeing around through the final up through Pioneer Park. Discretion, the better part of valor in this technical portion of the racetrack. But VK leading Clayman, let's call it, well, he's now gapped at some 5 car lengths, Ryan.
That looks about right to me. Clayman's been sitting on those pushes to pass, but that's not really been by choice. He's been too far back to activate him. That all changed on the restart, and we've got a race at the front of the field.
Yep, got to be within 1.5 seconds to jump on that push-to-pass button, and certainly Zachary Clayman is there. Out of turn 14, it's still about 3 car lengths. The 2 drivers up front, VK and Clayman, they will see the white flag. Clayman charging down the front straightaway. This long airport runway. He'll close to within a couple car lengths as they bend their way through the right-hander. Now back to the left. It closes to about a car length and a half. Here comes Zachary Clayman. Dave, first, can he pull off a last lap pass?
We'll see. Let's call it 5 car lengths or so, as Rhiness VK has done a nice job, not only on the restart, but a nice job to kind of gap those 2. Further back, Salary now solidly in 3rd. Malukas' teammates in 4th. And then you have the rookie for Velarde Auto Racing in Falchero. VK, Clayman, Salary, Malukas, Falchero, Ryan Marine.
It was a slow start to the weekend for Rhiness VK and Juncos Racing. Throttle sensor issues caused them effectively to miss the entire practice session. They've been playing catch-up ever since then. He holds off Zachary Clayman through turn number 10. Just a couple more quarters to go for the first career Indy Lights win for Rhiness VK.
They'll make their way turns through 13 and 14. Clayman will close to within a car length. He gets the nose right up underneath the rear tires, but Rhiness VK is clear out of turn 14, hard on the accelerator and across the start-finish line as the young man from Holland will go to victory lane to claim his first career Indy Lights win presented by Cooper Tires. VK grabs the victory over Zachary Clayman by 0.6 of a second, 3 or 4 car lengths on the racetrack. Toby Sowery finishes 3 seconds behind in second as he caps off a fantastic weekend with 2 podium finishes. David Malukas comes home in 4th. Falchero is 5th. Ryan Norman 6th. Lucas Cole finishes 7th. Dalton Kellett 8th. Robert Mcguinness out of the race in 9th. Oliver Askew in 10th. Boy, Parker Thompson, Zachary Clayman was hustling that Velarde Mazda over the last couple laps. Rhiness VK, though, did not blink.
No, Rhiness did not. But is it just me, Nick, that saw Zachary Clayman's car all over the place? It was squirrely. So he did a great job hanging on to that. It drove great, pressured up Rhiness, but it's pretty tough to force VK into a mistake.
Tell you what, Steve, I mean, this IL-15 just consistently puts on some pretty good racing, and I love this push-to-pass system, the fact that the leader can't defend. I mean, you're kind of a sitting duck, and it closed up the end of both of these races. This is a tough place to pass. There's no doubt about it, but certainly Zachary Clayman doing everything he could to get around Rhiness VK. But what a nice win for the reigning Indy Pro 2000 champion.
Yeah, they've dialed this push-to-pass in really well over the last couple of years. It took a little bit to get it sorted out, but, man, it's now you get the extra 50 horsepower, and you have to be within a second and a half, and it's actually worked really well. And, you know, that just a few things about this win for Rhiness. I think this is his 11th win in his Mazda Rodin, or sorry, oops. I'll have to
$5 in the swear jar.
Yeah, I know. I got money in the swear jar. But 11th win on the Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires. And this crazy stat here, 23 podiums in 32 starts on the Road to Indy. That's just, it's incredible how consistent and how good he has been.
Yeah, VK is he's a true Road to Indy product. Before winning that formerly Pro Mazda, now Indy Pro 2000 title last year, he spent 2017 in USF 2000, where he won 3 races at Road America and Watkins Glen, finishing second in the championship. And then that year it was to fellow 2019 Lights competitor Oliver Askew. And then this year, last year I should say, 7 wins, 10 podiums to move his way up into Indy Lights. He has made his way back to pit lane. He's popped that helmet off. He's getting that winning Cooper Tires hat. We're going to hear from our race winner, Rhiness VK, shortly. Parker Thompson, I want to take a couple minutes to, again, congratulate you on a great race weekend. Let's talk a little bit about the effort now that goes into getting you back into a race car, hopefully very soon.
Well, thank you very much, Nick, again for having me on the broadcast to talk about this race weekend and also talk about Indy Lights racing. It's going to be tough, but I want to make the season happen. These guys at Able Motorsports are just fantastic. We've got a nice lead in the championship. Obviously, that wasn't the goal coming in. We wanted to just go out and win races and prove a point that I wanted to prove a point that I can compete on the on the road to Indy. Compete on the road to Indy and compete in Indy Pro 2000, and I think we proved a point. That's exactly what we did. I really want to get back with these Able Motorsports guys, like I said, so I got to go pound the pavement, find some sponsorship dollars, and hopefully you'll see me in May. But to thank a few people, first and foremost, I'll thank Able Motorsports, Able Construction for having me at this race. It's been an absolute pleasure. My teammate, Jacob Abel, this kid is going to win races. He's super quick, one of the best teammates I've raced against, so I can't wait to help mentor him and bring him up through the road to Indy, and I think you're going to see a lot more of him. And lastly, I'll thank Badlands Motorsports Resort for helping me out to make the grid this weekend here in St. Pete. And I'll thank you, Nick, and everyone on the broadcast. Really appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, well, you're a great race analyst, even better race car driver, and the door is always open. We're going to try to get you back in the booth here a little bit later this season. Great job by Parker Thompson, 2 race wins this weekend. Let's hear from another guy that just picked up a race win down on pit lane here at St. Pete, standing by with Rob Howden.
Yeah, Rhiness VK, you've never finished outside the top 5 here at St. Petersburg. This is your 3rd win. This is a big one, though. Give me your emotion having won here in Indy Lights.
It's amazing. Just finishing 5th yesterday, which isn't really what I want to. And then winning today on this track with family around me and just my first Indy Lights win. So I hope this is first of many wins.
A lot of excitement on that opening lap. You were able to get around the outside of Oliver Askew. The car started to get a little loose on you turning in. Talk about that opening sequence through those first corners.
Yeah, I knew I could go really deep on the clean line coming into turn 1. So I went really deep and Oliver kind of went straight. I still stayed next to him, but we run out of road coming to turn 2. But I feel sorry for him retiring, but I'm happy to win this race, and I want to thank the team for the amazing car.
Obviously, the team plays a role, right? Juncos Racing, you spent a full year with them last year. How much did that mean to the comfort you have now with them coming into your first year of Lights?
It means a lot. It's like coming home. It's just the family around me, and I know all the guys, and we just do the same as last year, and it results to a win.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Rhiness VK, folks, the winner today in Indy Lights. To Joel.
Zachary Clayman, the 2nd place finisher in the number 13 Velarde entry. A 1st place finish and a 2nd for you. Nice momentum to start off the year.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the weekend we've had, and couldn't really have gone better except for a win today, but that's that.
Interesting circumstances for you, having done a couple IndyCar races last year. Now moving back into Lights, are there any unique challenges that come with that adjustment?
No, if anything, it's been a little bit easier. I mean, the competition in IndyCar is really high, and there's no room for error, so it's kind of prepared me well to be here in Indy Lights.
Zachary Clayman certainly going to be one of the championship contenders this year in Indy Lights. To Rob Howden.